If you've just joined us, good morning. Welcome to Philosophy Live. My name is Christine Lambie. I'm your host here this morning. Now, philosophy as a subject in the ancient world used to include aspects of what would now be called psychology. So today we're having a special guest who will be talking a bit about mental health and particularly PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, at present in the world, we're seeing a lot of conflict, and we can suppose that people will be traumatized by events which are beyond their control. So how can any one individual process this trauma? Now, I'm just going to say at the outset, this is not therapy and it's not counseling, but it is the lived experience of one person. So I'm very pleased to introduce this morning Nick Wildman. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. So let's jump straight in. Tell us a little bit about your story. I think you spent some time in the military. Would you like to just fill that in a little bit for us?
Yeah, sure. I joined the army at the age of 19 and served 5 years from the mid-80s to the 90s. And then actually rejoined again the Army Reserve to do SAS selection in 1998 and served there for 8 years.
And I think you did some mine clearance as well.
Yeah, when I left the regular army at the start of 1990, obviously the Gulf War started not long after that, and I got a contract to work demining the oil fields. If you remember, they were set ablaze, and we were given a contract to clear all the minefields so that the oil fields could be extinguished. And as you can imagine, very sort of hazardous work, very austere environment in the heat of a Kuwaiti summer, and it was extremely difficult working conditions, as you might imagine.
Yes, that looks like a very hostile environment. And I think your story with risk and danger goes a bit further back than that. Do you want to fill that in a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 70s, and 70s a completely different time, and obviously to where we are now. We were always out playing in the streets. There was nothing indoors for us, so we were always getting into scrapes and playing out late. And I grew up in Guildford, and one particular evening, Guildford's a garrison town. The home of the British Army was in Aldershot, and the IRA bombed Guildford sort of town centre, and one sort of Saturday evening, and I was very close to that with a friend of mine whose brother was in town. So, being young kids, was 10 years old, we'd heard this explosion, and we ran towards it instinctively, I guess. And as we got a lot closer, a second explosion went off, and that was quite an incident. I think at 10 years old, you didn't really understand all the fuss that was being made of you. And then within a couple of years, sadly I lost my granddad, my father, and my uncle. And my mother, couldn't cope with a couple of young teenage boys, so we just kind of looked after ourselves, if you like, and got into a number of scrapes after that.
Understandable. Gosh. So you've had a big helping of, not helping is the wrong word, a big dollop, let's say, of trauma through childhood, maybe early 20s, 30s. How are you able to say, are you willing to say how that affected you? You also had these losses.
Yeah, well, I think, certainly as a young person, you don't know how to sort of process these things, and you effectively disassociate yourself. You kind of cover yourself, and then you kind of reach for things, and your behaviors change. I went from a good student to a poor student, underperforming, and I didn't respect authority, which was quite a big, bold move for me to join the army in the first place. I think it's more out of desperation, but people that I associated with, they're going to prison. There were people using drugs and overdosing and being, killing themselves through that activity. And I did get into that at different stage in my life, but you do reach for things, and it can lead to all sorts of different situations, really.
Of course. I'll just say here, if anyone watching would like to ask a question, please put it in the comments box. So you're in this, quite challenging mental environment. How have you managed this? You've obviously got into a different path. How have you managed this trauma, really, that came your way?
Yeah, well, I think as I was sort of intimating, you don't really understand. It's just your lived experience. I don't see myself at all as a victim. It's just, this is my life. It just makes sense to me. But you get to a point, I mean, it's rather like carrying a rucksack that you just keep filling heavy weights into, and eventually you can't carry that anymore, and you have to deal with the situation and change your lifestyle. So you then have to start looking after yourself. And for me, well, conventionally that would, take a medical route and medications, but I wasn't keen on doing that because I'd seen, my mother take antidepressants and Valium for 30 years. So when it got to a stage I had to put a rucksack down, if you like, I then saw a Chinese herbalist and did acupuncture, and I withdrew a little bit just to sort of take stock of the situation, if you like, and start to look after myself. And it took quite a long period of time. But actually, any mental health episode will present in a way that can take you on a different path, and you'll need to start looking after yourself. So, trying to focus on good sleep, eating well, he even prescribed quite a strict diet. I wasn't allowed things like onion and garlic, I remember. It's just all these things can overstimulate you in a time where you need to be calm. And that's kind of what I did. And reading good material and, just really taking care of myself, to be fair.
I think that's such a good message for anybody. Take care of yourself. I really think you've said such a good thing there. What would you suggest to somebody who's living with a partner who has PTSD or even some other mental health issue, or who's a friend of someone in this situation? What would be helpful for them to know?
Yeah, I think the important thing is relationships, and that you have a relationship where you're able to speak to somebody, because what that individual needs is empathy. They don't need sympathy. They just need somebody's attention, really, that they can speak to and just say how they're feeling. What I found really useful is taking, and I do this now, I take people for walks, and we have a walk and talk, being surrounded in the beauty of nature and away from distraction. And I think you just find it easier it's a much more peaceful environment. You find it easier to communicate. And I think what really compounds the issue is when you just hold on to stuff and you don't deal with it, and you try and distract yourself. And you may be something behaviors like you might reach for drink or drugs, etc. Just getting back to what is real, your true nature. And I think having a supportive friend or partner who can actually listen and where you don't feel judged is a huge help.
Yeah. I'm going to take a question here from Graham Blackburn. Did Nick find the discipline of the army was helpful to his mental health or otherwise?
Yeah, it's a great question, Graham. I found it really, well, there's two points to it. What was really useful is when you're on a structured sort of training course, if you like, a selection course or a training course. It gives you that building blocks. So you've got something to aim for, and you've got that strict discipline, which is as a base, when you're in basic training, it's the discipline is very strict. And also you've got a sense of belonging, because you belong to, if you're looking for a family unit, you've got that. You've got people around you all the time. So I found that really a really positive aspect. And when you then go into the normal army, if you like, depending what kind of work you end up doing, you need a little bit more discipline, self-discipline. And when I first joined the army, I was pretty immature, young kid really. And if there wasn't enough stimulation around, you would create it, and I was fair from a kind of model soldier as a young person. But there you go.
Yeah. And you've talked a little bit about being outside. You'd like to just say a little bit about what you do now, the adventure company that you run?
Yeah, well, I started Trident Adventure after I left the fire service in 2019, and I'd always run overseas adventures, worked for other people, been on military expeditions and other expeditions, Operation Rally, and for me, it was just something I was really passionate about, getting people outdoors, getting them into places they wouldn't ordinarily go by themselves. And we take people to the Arctic. We do ski tours in Morocco, just come back from Nepal. And we also do like weekend retreats, just connecting in nature, could be under a hammock in the trees. And, that's what we're really passionate about doing, and bringing people together to, build their confidence, really, at the same time, build a bit more resilience, because I think after the last couple of years, we've all of us have had a challenge to our resilience, and we're living in a very uncertain time, and it's it does affect people.
What is your aim with these adventure events? What is it you're hoping to provide for people?
Well, we provide a kind of unique experience, really, because we tried to build a team before we go to a country initially. So we've always worked in high performing teams, and we like to bring people together to build their confidence. And people tend to think that these things are what other people do, that they don't have the confidence or the resilience or the skill set to do that. So we literally take people on a journey before we actually go overseas, and just upskill them. We give them the confidence to operate in somewhere like the Arctic, which people always say to me, "Oh, it's I don't like the cold," but you're not cold there, because when you're moving, you're generating heat, and when you stop moving, you put a warm a warm coat on. It's such a stunning environment. The Arctic's probably one of my favorite places on earth, and it's not the North Pole we're talking about. We're talking about the top of northern Scandinavia, and it's stunning. You get to see wolf tracks, wolverine tracks, and you think, how do things live out here? And but they do, and you see life in front of you, and it's just such a stunning environment to be in. And being in the Arctic, it really polarizes the strength in a group and you're completely away from distraction. So you're eating by candlelight. There's no mobile phone reception. So you have, you get back to your true nature, having conversations, giving people your attention.
Yes. I've just got one question here, which I can see. Nicholas Dematos is asking, do you study philosophy? I think he's asking if you're involved with the school. So I perhaps should have said that at the beginning. Yes, you are a student in the school. You're going to be, I think, a tutor shortly.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I've been in Guildford School for 10 years. And, I have to say, it's just been, I've met such wonderful people. And, it's provided, another way to look at things. It really, gives you the opportunity to see what is your true nature, what is real, what doesn't change. All these things, these events are just changing experiences, and there's, at your core, there's something that is unchanging, and you see that you start to connect with that and see that in yourself and in other people. And it's a really great thing, and Guildford School. It's a fantastic building. It's full of great people, as is the wider school, and I've met some absolutely wonderful people.
Just going back to mental health, I think you said that you feel the pandemic ahead is the mental health one. Like to just comment on that a bit further?
Yeah, I think certainly agree that is the case, and we've had our illusions of the world sort of shattered, and it's everybody's lived in a very vulnerable state, for the last few years, and it's very unsettling. It goes, it affects your subconscious, the way that this uncertainty. We've never had a situation like it. I mean, we carried the pandemic around in our pocket, in terms of our phone getting updates all the time, and everything that was around that time. And I feel that it's affected people's resilience. Whether you're aware to it or not, it's crept in, and I think that can be an added layer of stress, if you like, to already sort of stressful life. And if you add that on to maybe some issues with the economy, or poor health, or a dysfunctional relationship, whatever it might be, it's enough to really find yourself in the time of poor mental health. And I think that's affected many people.
Yes. I think you said such a good thing earlier. Just look after yourself, eat well, look after your sleep. And I think that is good advice really for everybody, whether you have a mental health issue or not, actually. If we were to finish with just one short piece of advice, what would you say to everybody? Just one really short piece of advice.
Well, the time to really look after your mental health is before you experience poor mental health. So that is, as we talked about, really focusing on good sleep, good nutrition, exercising, spending time out in nature, and building good relationships, with other people and with yourself. And if there's one simple thing you could do, is keep a pair of trainers by the back door, go and put them on, and get outside and walk in nature.
I think that's a great note to finish on. Go and put your shoes on, go outside, walk in nature. Yeah. Nick, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story and your insights. It's been fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome, Christine. Thank you.
So just to reiterate, this is not therapy. It's not counseling. If you're watching this and you need any help with any mental health issues, please seek the appropriate help. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this interview or found it useful, please like it and share it. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, and definitely subscribe on YouTube. And we will be back next week for the final week of term. Thank you so much for watching. Go outside, enjoy the day.